Hello everyone. Today's joke of the day is, why do bees have sticky hair? Stay tuned to find out. Our learning target for today is I can solve a system of equations using the elimination method. Now remember, a system of equations is two equations, and the solution to our system of equations is the point, which we write as an ordered pair, where the graphs of the equations intersect. Another method for solving systems of equations is the elimination method. Okay, so we've already learned about solving by graphing and using the substitution method, and now we're going to learn the elimination method. Now the goal of this method is to eliminate one of the variables by adding or subtracting the equations together. Okay, so let's look at a few examples here to see how this would work. Okay, our goal here is to eliminate one of our variables, either the x or the y, and then we'll just be left with one variable, so we can solve for that variable and then substitute that value back in to solve for our other variable and find our ordered pair. Okay, so here in this first equation, or in this first example, we can see that in both in one of our equations we have a negative 4y. Right here we have this negative 4y, and we have this positive 4y. Now if we want to eliminate one of the variables, we need to have the coefficient when we add or subtract them together. The coefficient that's in front of that variable needs to become 0. So we either need to have the coefficients that are the same, and then we could subtract them, or coefficients that are opposite, and then we can add them. So in this case, we have opposite coefficients. We have a negative 4y and a positive 4y. And if we were to add those together, we would take negative 4y plus plus 4y, right? And that would give us 0y. So then 0 times y would just be 0, so that would eliminate our y value here. Okay, so that's what we're going to do to eliminate the y value. We're going to add these two equations together. Okay, so we have to combine all like terms. So we'll take our negative 4x plus our 6x. That'll give us 2x. We'll take the negative 4y plus 4y, which will give us 0y. You don't really need to write the 0y, but I'm going to leave it in there right now just for clarity. And then we take 4 minus plus a negative 8. Which would be negative 4. Okay, so this 0y cancels out. That's just 0. So we're left with 2x is equal to negative 4. Now I can divide by 2 on both sides to get that x by itself will be equal to negative 2. Now that we know the value for x, we can substitute that value back into our equation for y, or for x, to solve for y. Now we can pick either one of our equations for this. I'm just going to pick the top equation. So we'll take negative 4 times negative 2 minus 4y is equal to 4. Now negative 4 times negative 2 is negative 8 minus 4y is equal to 4. Oh, actually, sorry, that's a positive 8, not a negative 8. And then we want to subtract 8 from both sides. Those will cancel out. Well, negative 4y is equal to negative 4. And our final step to solve for y is to divide by negative 4 on both sides. Okay, so we get y is equal to negative 4 divided by negative 4, which is a positive 1. So our solution to this system of equations is going to be the point negative 2, 1. Okay, let's look at our next example. Here again, we want to look for coefficients that are either the same or are opposites. In this case, we have a positive 4x and a negative 4x. And if we add those together, because they're opposites, that will be 0. So they will cancel out. Okay, so here then, we will add those together, add our equations together to get rid of that x, to eliminate that variable. we'll get 4x plus negative 4x is 0x. Again, you don't need that to keep that 0x in there. You could just eliminate it. And then we have 9y minus plus negative 3y, which is a positive 6y, equals negative 14 plus 2 is negative 12. And that cancels out, so we're left with 6y is equal to negative 12. And then divide by 6 on both sides. So we end up with y is equal to negative 2. Okay, and now we can take that negative 2 and substitute it back into one of our equations for y to solve and to find the value for x. So let's plug this back into our second equation. We have negative 4x minus 3 times negative 2 equals 2. Negative 4x, negative 3 times negative 2 is 6. So negative 4x plus 6 equals 2. Now we just solve for x by doing inverse operations. So we'll subtract 6 on both sides. We get negative 4x equals negative 4, and then we divide by negative 4 on both sides. We'll end up with x is equal to a positive 1. Now remember, for our ordered pair, we write it in the form x comma y. So x is first, which is 1, and then y, which is negative 2. And that will be our solution. Okay, let's look at another example here. We have x plus y equals 7, and negative 3x plus y equals negative 5. In this case, the coefficient in front of our y's, each of our y's, is 1. And since they're the same, then we have to subtract them to eliminate, okay? So in this case, we are going to subtract our second equation from our first equation. Now we have to be careful here and make sure we subtract every single number. So in this case, we'll have a 1x minus a negative 3x. So that's really like adding 3x, right? So what we can do here then is we have 1 minus negative 3, which is plus 3. So we actually end up with 4x. Now we know our y's cancel out, so I'm just going to cross those out, and we don't need to write them down again. And then that's going to be equal to 7 minus negative 5. So that's really 7 plus 5, which would give us 12. Okay, and then we'll solve for x by dividing 4 on both sides, dividing by 4 on both sides, and then x is equal to 3. Okay, x is equal to 3. Then we can take our x and we can substitute that back into our equation to solve for y. Let's substitute that back into our first equation. So then we'll have 3 plus y equals 7. And then we have y left over, so we'll subtract 3 on both sides. So y equals 7 minus 3, which is 4. So our solution here is going to be the 0.34. All right, let's look at one final example here. We have 4x plus 2y equals 16, and 4x plus 6y equals 8. So in this case, the coefficient in front of the x's is the same, which means in order to eliminate x as a variable, we need to subtract. So we'll subtract everything here. Then we'll take 4x minus 4x, and those will just cancel out. That'd be 0. Okay, 2y minus 6y is going to be a negative 4y, and that'll be equal to 16 minus 8, which is a positive 8. Now I solve for y by dividing by negative 4 on both sides to get that y is equal to negative 2. All right, now that we solve for y, we can substitute the negative 2 back into, let's say, our first equation here for y. And that's going to equal 16. So 4x plus 2 times negative 2 equals 16. And then we have 4x actually minus 4, because 2 times negative 2 is a negative 4, equals 16. Now we solve for x by doing inverse operation, so let's add 4 to both sides. Cancel out there. 4x is equal to 16 plus 4, which is 20. And then we divide by 4 on both sides. And x is equal to 20 divided by 4, which is 5. Okay, so our solution here in the form of an ordered pair, which we always list x first, will be 5, negative 2. Okay, and we can always check our answers by plugging our solution back into one of our equations and making sure everything checks out, but I'll leave that for you to do on your own. Okay, so the goal of the elimination method, just to summarize, is that we add or subtract the equations together to get rid of one of the variables, and then we solve for the other variable. And then we take that value and substitute it back into our equation to find our final variable. Okay? So for today's joke of the day, why do bees have sticky hair? Because they use a honeycomb. Thanks for watching and have a great day.